Good evening. Welcome to Tuesday Night Live, Life in Focus. We're glad to have you with us tonight. Got a great class. I wasn't able to attend last week. I had to be out of town. So tonight we're going to continue where we were on a couple of weeks ago. And we were talking about some different things, and we're going to do that. But I have an announcement to make first. On August the 4th, we started our second round of PTSD classes for veterans. It's on Thursday night, every Thursday night at 6 p.m. It's located at the First United Bank, Mays Room in Bonham, Texas. And it's a wonderful place. And we would like for all combat veterans and their families, if the veteran feels comfortable with his family being there, we would like for you to come and be with us. We've already graduated 6 in the previous class, and some of those will be with us Thursday night to greet you and meet you and hopefully make you feel comfortable. God is wanting to help you overcome all the issues you have because of the war, moral injuries, and PTSD that you have. So we look forward to seeing you Thursday night at 6 p.m. and we'll also feed you. We'll have dinner and great fellowship, and it's not a clinical class, okay? It's a family deal for us, okay? We're going to start our theme song, so we'll be back in a minute.
Lift the load from my shoulders, shake the chains from my heart. Let the crushed and silent voice within declare a new start. Song of renewal deep in my heart, sung in the daylight, sung in the dark. Troubles in this life weigh on my mind, but I live stronger, stronger to leave them behind. Living doesn't last forever. I wanna live while I'm here. Recovery's on the way, breathing the wonder. Today's not forever. Dream big, see clear. Life is now or never. One single life, one single love, one single voice I'm flying above. Over the doubts and fears, over the wasted years, over the mountains that get in my way. This chance won't see tomorrow. I gotta live it today. Living doesn't last forever. I wanna live while I'm here. Recovery's on the way, breathing the wonder. Today is not forever. Dream big, see clear. Life is now or never. Now or never.
We are back. Just a quick review of what we talked about a couple of weeks ago. We're talking about first principles. First principles are the fact that you break down things to the very basic that you can break them down to until you can't break things down any further. Elon Musk did this when he started SpaceX. He wanted his dream from a child was to colonize Mars. And that seemed like science fiction when he was a child, but he's on the way to do that. So to get to Mars, you need rocket ships, and rocket ships are very expensive to build. So he went to Russia, tried to buy some rocket ships, and on and on and on, and failed 3 times. He made 3 rocket ships, failed 3 times, and he figured out that the basic material he needed to build a rocket ship cost approximately, I think it was $500,000, okay, something like that, and maybe it was $1 million, because he tried to buy some rocket ships from Russia, and he come to the fact that to buy a rocket ship from somebody or to have somebody build it for you was around $65 million. Plus you need all the infrastructure to have a place to launch it. So he figured out how much it cost, and he built his own rocket ship, I think for around $10 million instead of $65 million, because he did first principles. So let's continue on from there. The first principles that we're going to have. And then we talked about the creation of our soul. We talked about our soul. And we talked about the creation of Adam and Eve. And God said he made Adam and Eve out of the dust of the ground. I like to call him Mud Man, because he invented or created the whole world just by speaking things. Said, let there be light, let there be animals, let there be grass, let there be trees. He did all that, but when it came to making man, he made him himself. I said kind of like if you ever played in a sand pile with a bucket and wet the sand a little bit and turned upside down, then took the bucket off, it was in shape of a bucket. So God had already a vision in his mind what a man would be like, because he wanted him to be like him. So he made him, formed him out. If you ever made anything out of clay, I'm not artistic, but some people are really good at it, or drawn something. And then he made this mud man, and it was just laying there on the ground. And then it said God breathed into his, give it mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. God breathed into this mud man, and he became a living soul. Okay? He was a person before, somewhat. I don't know exactly how all the organs that we have now were made. Did God make them when he formed us, or did he just make an image of us? And then when he breathed into us, all the organs came into being? I don't know. And so we were a deflated person, and then when he breathed into us, our soul became inflated. And then we know the story that Adam and Eve did what God said, don't eat of the tree of good and evil. And of course, like all of us, that's the first thing they wanted to do, right? So they did that, and their soul was deflated again, although they were still alive, and they had to begin life in a different format than they did when they were in the Garden of Eden. So that's kind of where we're at tonight, okay? So what we want to do is try to break down the principles of having people that have mental health issues or substance use disorders, to break down to the basic principles, because we all know if you've been an addict or you've had mental health issues or whatever, if you've worked in the field as a therapist, as a peer-to-peer counselor, as somebody that just loves to help people that are broken, we know that the issue is very difficult. There's a lot of different types of treatment available. We have AA, we have behavioral health centers, we have places you can go and get detoxed, and you can go for treatment in different places, 30-day treatment, 6 months treatment. You can go to free treatment centers, free detox centers, or you can go where you have to pay. They have some detox centers and treatment centers that are $30,000 a month. And so looking at those, I don't see any greater success of the people that go to the $30,000 a month than the people that go to the free ones. It's just a lot more comfortable at the $30,000 a month treatment center, okay? So, the success rate, according to which statistic you read, is from 5 to 12%. Some people claim 80%, but in my experience in this working with people that are addicted is probably closer to 5% long term. Now, if you ask me to help make a statistic at 3 to 6 months, I can probably show you 80% success. But most of the clients that I dealt with over the period of several years relapse from 3 to 6 months. So what we're doing is not working well. It's kind of like Elon. When he first started building rockets and putting them on the launch pad and firing them off, the first one blew up, the second one blew up, the third one blew up, but he didn't quit, did he? So if you're just beginning your journey to get over having mental health issues, getting over paranoia, anxiety, whatever the situation may be that is affecting your mental health, it's very difficult to get long term and get things squared away in your life. So there's one story of a guy that during the Vietnam War, he got his draft notice. He was 19 years old. And it put him over the edge, and he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and they put him on medication, and he was trying to overcome the issues that he was having with voices and all the different things that was happening to him. And he took meds until he was 25, and then decided he wanted to change. He decided that his life was not very, he was not living a great life, and his life was not good. So he decided he wanted to improve his life, and so he decided to try to get off meds. And I'm not telling you to get off meds. I'm not saying meds are bad. I'm just saying that what he wanted to do. So he met with his doctor, and they come up with a plan, and he started weaning his way off meds. And he got down to where he could do 2 weeks, 3 weeks without meds, and then he would start having the hallucinations again and all that, and he would get back on meds, somewhat like if we had an infection of some kind of a bacterial infection, whatever we may have, toothache, earaches, ear infection, sore infection, whatever, that the doctor puts us on antibiotics for a certain length of time, and then the infection should go away. And so that's what this young man did for several years. And so when he would feel an episode coming on, he would get back on his meds for around 30 days, and then he could get off, and he got where he could stay off his meds for longer time until when he was 40 years old, he was able to live completely without his meds, and he got married, had children, had a job, and had all that stuff. So he broke it down to first principles. The first thing that he had and experienced. So let's break down mental health and substance abuse. The first principles, we're going to go over 4. We're going to try to cover maybe 2 tonight, maybe 1, depending on how much time I have and how much I talk and tell different stories. So, the first thing we need is a moment of clarity. When you're in the midst of using drugs, or you're using cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, whatever you may be using, or it's street drugs, psych drugs, whatever it may be, your thought pattern and your ability to think is quite overcome, and you're not able to think well. You can't make good decisions. And so to get a moment of clarity so that you can come to yourself where you're at and be able to think about what you may be able to do, I want to tell you the story. I don't know how each of you that are listening tonight know about the Bible, but I love this story. It's one of my favorite stories, and it's not just a story. It was what Jesus told us about, and to make us understand about the decisions we make in life, how that affects us long term. So there was this young man that lived with his dad, and his dad was quite rich, and they had servants or employees. I don't want to call them servants. They had employees that worked there and took care of the farm and helped them do all that they had to do, because back in that day, your wealth was basically based on how many animals you had, how many sheep you had, how many goats you had, how many camels you had, and what kind of house you lived in, and all those kind of things. Uh, that was kind of the way your wealth was based. You could have gold, but mainly it was based on animals and that type of thing and how much land you had. So this young man, he was impatient. He had an older brother. So he went to his dad and he said, you know, Dad, I appreciate all you've done for me, but I just want to make it on my own. Okay? And so uh, if you would see fit to give me what you're going to give me when you die. Now that's a tough situation. You go to your dad and say, give me what I want, what you're going to give me when you die, whatever's in the will. And I would appreciate that. So his dad did that. Whatever he had decided to give him, he gave the young man that amount of money, animals, whatever. And the young man gathered it all together and got his stuff together, packed his suitcases, got on the Greyhound bus or on the American Airlines. Of course, they didn't have that back then. And decided to go maybe to Italy, to Germany, some far land away, and see what he could do. So he went to this new land, and he had all this money and set up a house there, got him a house and did all that stuff. And then he started going to the bars and met a lot of friends there because he bought a lot of rounds at the bar. And so got well acquainted with everybody in the town. And he went there and he bought a lot of, as I said, rounds. And people loved to be around him and told all his stories, I'm sure. I don't know how much y'all have been to bars, but I'm sure some of you have. And tell you war stories. I'm good at telling war stories about my life. And so that's what he did. And he just lived crazy. Just whatever he wanted to do. He slept with a lot of women, all that kind of stuff. And eventually he ran out of money. He didn't work, so he didn't make any more money. So eventually he ran out of money. And during that time, a recession happened. And a drought happened, so the farmers were not able to grow any food. The employment went up. He couldn't really find a job. And so he was hungry without any money and without basically any friends anymore because he didn't really have any friends. He just had people that hung around him and got what they could from him. So here's this young man, no place to live, no money, no food. They didn't have welfare back in that day. I don't know whether they had food banks or not. But anyway, he became totally destitute. And he finally found a job with a farmer that had hogs, pigs, and the guy gave him a job feeding the pigs, feeding the hogs. Dirty job. He was so hungry that he almost started eating the foods the hogs were eating because he was hungry. When you're hungry, really, really hungry, and you're starving to death, you'll eat a lot of things that you wouldn't normally eat. So there he was, out of his mind, didn't have alcohol, didn't have any money to buy alcohol anymore. I don't know where he was able to get a drug dealer and get some drugs or not. And his mind was compromised because the way he had been living. He was full of anxiety and paranoia, and he was what we would call a Jew, a Hebrew, a Israeli. And Israelis didn't eat hog meat, so they weren't around hogs, okay? And this young man all of a sudden had a moment of clarity. His mind started working a little bit. And he said, hey, you know, here I am starving to death without anything to eat, living with the hogs, filthy, miserable. And my dad, my father, he's wealthy. got a big house, a lot of land, and I think what I'll do is I'll just go home and say, "Hey, Dad, I'm not worthy to be your son anymore because you already give me what was mine and I spent it and I'm broke. Can I just live here and work here like an employee?" So that was his decision. He had a moment of clarity. So I want you to understand that you, at some point in your issues, whether it's mental health issues, substance abuse issues, or a combination of the both, I want you to understand that you need a moment of clarity. Okay? When you have that moment of clarity, you need to make a decision of what you're going to do. So, what do you want to do? Do you want to keep living in misery as you are today? Or do you want your life to be improved? You are not where you're at. You're not in a hog pen. Your body may be in a hog pen, but your spirit, soul, and your godness, you're God's child, and He's got great things in store for you. So, I'm sorry I'm out of time. I look forward to next week. Come back. It's time to go. See you next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. If you're a combat veteran with PTSD, I'll see you Thursday night at 6 o'clock in Bonham, Texas at the First National Bank. Goodbye. Have a wonderful